What's up, YouTube? I'm King Shanks, and this is Droid's Finest, and I am back with Shadowrun Dragonfall, alternate endings. Gotta go talk to another thingamajig right here. Why would I go to the wrong side? Oh my god, get over to this side, thank you. The screen winks to life as you approach. Okay, so a bunch of stuff I need to talk about. Threat file, environmental changes. Background count. Global background count rising. Dr. Jake Henson is one of the world's foremost expert in mana dynamics. He's taken a break from his own research to travel to my lab. Since he's arrived, he's spent the better part of the day poring over reams of data that my team collected. Straightening, he looks me in the eye, and his normally jovial expression has turned grim. We're in trouble, Liz, he says. Ugh, back. Ugh. Dr. Hansen's proclamation confirms what we already know. Still, I wince. I was hoping he'd find something to prove me wrong. To explain why we're in trouble, I'll first have to introduce a piece of metamagical terminology for your background count. In Hermetic theory circles, the term background count refers to the intensity of magic saturation in a location. At a rating of 0 is neutral, and as the amount of the concentrated mana in a location increases, the scale goes up. Outside of freak mana storms, the highest background counts ever recorded have come from places like Hiroshima and Auschwitz, which have been holding steady at a rating of 5 for as long as they've been measured. The conventional wisdom has always been that extraordinary circumstances create strong background counts. Incidents of great physical or emotional turmoil, be they positive or negative, can wrap the magical environment of a place and cause its background count to rise. But in recent months, my lab has recorded a disturbing trend, a steady global increase in the world's background count. This has been observed in every location that we've measured, from Germany to the Antarctic. Locations that used to be neutral now carry a measurable background of 1.2, and those high count locations like Hiroshima and Auschwitz, they've exploded into full-fledged mana storms. And this brings me back to the trouble that we're all in. Though the term might be burping. Burping is something I do. Alright. The term might be underselling it a bit. Deep shit is probably closer to the mark. The higher the world's background count rises, the less predictable magic will behave. The spells and rituals that we all rely on are beginning to fail us. If we do nothing, it is conceivable, maybe even probable, that magic will become too dangerous to use within our lifetime, and if we can no longer use magic, it will in turn become impossible for us to solve the problem. Back at my lab, Dr. Henson is still staring. You need to get the word out about this, Liz, he tells me. I'll back you. The community needs to know. He's right, of course. We as a community need to pool our resources to find a way to reverse this trend, and we need to do it quickly. If we do nothing, we might soon find ourselves outpaced by a rapidly changing magical environment, unable to adapt to the world as it changes around us. In trouble indeed. Dr. Elizabeth Adler. Okay, crime wave. Back to the news. A Horizon Corporation newsroom flickers onto the screen. The anchor wears an easy smile, but there is no warmth in his eyes. Troubling news out of Geneva today. The United Nations the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime has released its annual report on international violent crimes statistics, and according to its findings, violent crimes across the globe has nearly doubled since September of 2054. Surprisingly, the increase in violence has been steady across the board. It doesn't matter where you go, the murder rates are climbing. Even historically low crime countries such as Mexico and Liechtenstein have been impacted by this. The pandemic of violence respects no borders. Now, the report doesn't speculate as to why the world has become more violent in the past year, but on popular Matrix sites, conspiracy theories are running wild. The smooth-looking young newscaster to his left jumps in. That's right, John. According to one user, he went by the name of Rollin' Thunder. The attacks are being caused by alien rays. They're driving us crazy. He wrote, getting us to kill each other before they invade. Another poster who chose to remain anonymous said that magic was the culprit. Every time something crazy happens in the world, magic is to blame. Whatever the cause, the trend doesn't appear to be slowing down. Just this morning, a mass shooting in the CAS, state of Arkansas, left 22 dead and another 15 wounded. We'll have more on that story when we come back. Music begins to blare, then the screen cuts to static. You find yourself back at the main menu. Parasitical threats. Parasitical threats, the rising tide. October 10th, 2055. I'm standing in the laboratory of Dr. Japik Ernklinker, head zoologist in the Institute of Primate Research in Karen, Kenya. Strapped to a reinforced examination table is a creature unlike anything I've ever seen. The thing is approximately the size and shape of a gibbon, but it has 6 mouths arranged in a ring around a pale grub-like head. It's disgusting. Dr. Akunyi sees my reaction and he laughs. What you see now is nothing, he tells me. When it was alive, it killed 6 men, ripped the faces and genitals off 2, and bathed in the other 4 in some sort of a caustic fluid. Of 2, and bathed the other 4 in some sort of a caustic fluid, and all the while it was laughing. Laughing, I asked. Like hyena laughing? No, it was laughing like a man. Ugh, that's weird. He must see my brow furrow because he continues on. This was not a simple animal, Dr. Alder. It acted with purpose, and when it killed those men, and the only surviving witness tells me that it grew fat on their screams. Sure enough, the creature's belly does look distended. I know that the thing is dead, but it doesn't stop me from edging away. Dr. Lee goes on to tell me that many similar creatures have been captured throughout the jungles of Nairobi, monkey-like things with bizarre mutations and vicious temperaments, but each has been different enough from the others to defy classification. This one has a cluster of eyes and an extra set of legs, while that one had had a coat of quills and the rasping mouth of a lamprey. The emergence of magic some 40 years ago put a new wrinkle into biological field work. Dr. Okinyi tells me new species are being discovered all the time, but this is something different. These creatures have been popping up recently fall outside of any meaningful system of classification. And what's more, I have conducted enough autopsies on them to know that they do not belong here. I press him for clarification on that point. What I mean to tell you is that the internal anatomy is all wrong. It doesn't even make sense, he explains. These creatures could not exist if not for magics. And 6 months ago, I would have told you that they could not exist at all. The story is the same across the globe. Strange creatures of myriad shapes and descriptions appearing out of nowhere, acting with intelligence and malice, killing for the pleasure of it. When comparing the results of my own magical research, Dr. Okonyi's observations, an unsettling picture begins to emerge. As I reported in the last edition of SMQ, the magical background count of the world is rising, and the more mana that saturates our environment, the more of these strange creatures we see. These things, whatever they are multiplying, and they're getting bigger. If we as a community fail to find a solution to this problem, we'll have much bigger things to worry about than our ability to practice magic. The ecosystem of our planet is changing around us. The one-way flow of mana into our world is making the earth less and less suitable for human habitation and more suitable for the horrors that are invading our world. The clock is ticking, people. We are running out of time. Dr. Elizabeth Alder. Step away. Okay, so I should be able to go talk to Vauclair again. I have 2 minutes though, so I'd probably unfreeze, please. Thank you. Ugh. Have you gone over my research? Do you understand what we're up against? I've read all the information on your terminals. No, I'm still... Yes, I've read all the information. And he leans forward, intensity burning in his eyes. Your thoughts? I think it's pretty obvious, right? We did what we did, and a year later everything is going to shit. Honestly, Doc, I don't know. You say that all of this adds up to something, but I'll be damned if I know what it is. I'm going to say the second one. Nor do I, not exactly at least, but I can make an educated guess. We are looking at a natural, or if you prefer, paranatural catastrophe. Something has thrown off the balance between magic and reality. The magical background count of the world is rising, and the earth becomes more and more mana-rich. We're seeing increasingly devastating results. Paranatural disaster like that mana rift that consumed Sydney, widespread madness, and the most terrible, the appearance of dangerous new paranormal life forms. Predators that couldn't survive in mana-poor environments, are flooding into our world, and as the mana level continues to rise, larger and more dangerous things are appearing. In order to solve the problem, we need to find a way to plug the leak, but we have a more immediate concern. The creatures that are invading our world are growing larger and more dangerous at an exponential rate. Our first priority must be finding a way to combat these things. Then we tackle the long-term challenge of staunching the tide of mana and the mana that is flowing into the world. Alright, let's talk about killing these things. What's our best option? Give me a big enough gun, I can kill just about anything. These things are magical in nature. Seems to me that we need to find a magical solution. Magical solution. Magic might work in the short term, but as the global background count rises, it will become less and less reliable as a solution. We need a weapon that won't fail us before the job is done. Unfortunately, conventional weapons haven't done much to hurt these creatures. Even the small ones have shown an extraordinary resistance to physical damage, and bigger ones have been popping up are nigh unkillable. There was an embodied thing with many tongues terrorizing the skies above Buenos Aires. They tried to use helicopter gunships to shoot it down. They eventually succeeded, but not without destroying half of their own city in the process. He shakes his head. Bad business. He lights up another cigarette, musing. Maybe a biological control could work. Perhaps a neutral enemy could be found to fight these things, or, at the very least, to buy some time. What about germ warfare? You did it with Panacea, maybe you can do it again. Anything capable of killing one of these things would also be dangerous to us, wouldn't it? Try the Panacea again. He shakes his head. No, it took me over 40 years to develop Panacea, and I'll be lucky to live another 6 months. Besides which, the physiology of these creatures is so alien that I wouldn't know where to begin. He stubs out his cigarette and grabs another with a shaking hand, lighting it. He eagerly sucks the smoke. What we need is something powerful enough to keep these things at bay, but intelligent enough to be capable of reason. You mean like a dragon? Yes. Yep. Vauclair stands there for a moment, blinking, then his frail body begins to tremble. The cigarette drops from his lip and falls to the floor. Saucer-eyed, he covers his mouth with a withered hand. Oh God, we did this. I did this. He leans forward, bracing himself against the computer in front of him. He gulps down air in short, panicked breaths. You okay, Doc? Hang on, how is this your fault? I don't see it. Breathe, Vauclair. You still have a world to save. You okay, Doc? That's what I'm going to say. Vauclair stands there, leaning on his console, eyes bulging, his teeth grind. Finally, he raises his head to look you in the eye. Killing the dragons. It must have thrown the world out of balance somehow, but how? How was I to know that there were no signs, no indications? There was nothing. What I did was right. It looked that way to me too, Doctor. The evidence would argue otherwise. If by right you mean the worst thing you possibly could have done, then yes. I'm going to say the evidence would argue otherwise. He blinks up at you. It would, wouldn't it? He stares down at his trembling hands. I acted without considering all the variables. Didn't even consider that such variables could exist. I was blind. He holds his silence for a long while, struggling with himself. Finally, a quiet voice crawls out of him. I was a fool. This isn't your fault, Vauclair. You didn't know this would happen. You couldn't have known. Well, I'm convinced you're right, Vauclair. This is your fault. Maybe, but you can still turn this around. Maybe, but you can still turn this around. He shakes his head. Nothing can make this right. Nothing at all. There is no fixing This I can only atone for it, and so I shall. Oh god, he's gonna kill himself anyways. Vauclair opens his desk drawer and reaches in with both hands, pulls out. When he pulls them back out, you see an object that he's holding, a vintage Luger handgun. Gingerly he grips it in his right hand and raises it to his temple. It was a pleasure working with you, Gurgle Squirt. I'm sorry that I asked you to come all this way for nothing. Now turn away, if you please. Attempt to knock the gun out of his hand. Turn away. Godspeed, Doctor. Refuse. No, I won't do it. No, I won't. Don't do it, Vauclair. You saved the world once, you can do it again. Saved the world. Funny. He smiles weakly at you, but there are tears pouring from his eyes. I didn't save the world, Gurgle Squirt. I damned it. At least I know that. When I arrive in hell, I'll be in good company. His finger tightens on the trigger. The breath catches in his throat. I'll see you soon, Hermie. Oh man. Well, he's dead again. New objective. What's my new objective? Speak to Audrin. Okay. So I'll do that in the next episode. I guess I'm just gonna keep going. I gotta keep going. Anyways, stay tuned and I'll see you soon. Hey. Peace!